We have an update on Julian Assange. So the UK actually did reach a decision in reference to Julian Assange's possible extradition to the United States. And I want to talk about this very carefully because I noticed, again, with similar to the ceasefire, people were cheering about this on Twitter. And as I dug a little bit deeper, and I also saw Misty was covering this earlier this morning as well. She was covering it live. I realized that it's not a fail, but it's not really a win-win at the same time either. So I want to break this down a little bit. We're going to start with the actual announcement. This is from Sky News, the announcement here from Sky News about Julian Assange hearing here.
As well, breaking news from London, where the High Court has just granted Julian Assange leave to appeal his extradition to the United States, Liz.
Oh, this is wonderful news. I mean, as Nigel Farage just said to Paul Murray, any confidence in the justice system in America right now is at an all-time low. And we knew that Assange was never going to get a fair hearing in the States. They want to lock him up for 175 years if they get their way, which is just utterly ridiculous when you consider back in 2013, Manning's court-martial hearing showed via expert testimony that not only had no hacking happened, it couldn't have happened. Every single thing that Manning leaked to WikiLeaks, they had access to. She had access to already. Now, we know that she got let off scot-free after a few years in prison. Obama pardoned her, let her go off. She's now being a DJ, but they're still hunting our guy for doing nothing more than publishing. They know he didn't hack it, then publishing classified information. And they are, as they have ever been, also way back in 2013, up against the same problem. And that is what they call the New York Times problem, because they know that if they go after WikiLeaks for publishing classified information, they've got the New York Times and every other household name media outlet who has published classified information. They'd have to take them to court too. So this has always been an incredibly flimsy case, no matter how you spin it. He has every right to appeal. And I'm glad, especially after it came to light that the CIA had a few talks about potentially offing him, because, you know, that would really prove you're the good guys. They're so desperate to get rid of the problem of Assange. There were some talks about that happening. So there is absolutely no way he should ever be extradited to the US.
And that's the base.
Let me pause here for a second, and I'm going to let Stella Assange come in. So yes, Julian Assange was granted the right to appeal U.S. extradition. But what they did not grant was, and this is where this could have gone further, they did not actually state that the U.S. government did try to kill Julian Assange, right? They did not state that they tried to basically assassinate him in prison. That actually could have gone leaps and bounds, right? That I feel like that could have actually fully freed Julian Assange. But this is not exactly what people think it is. Stella actually was interviewed after this was announced. So I want to bring Stella Assange in so you can hear what she had to say about the ruling. Yes, I'm so happy that he can appeal the U.S. extradition, but I think it's important that people understand, like, they're not freeing Julian Assange, right? He's still going to be at Belmarsh. They're granting him a leave to take care of this appeal, but he's still going to be imprisoned. So what I think the U.S. government actually wanted, it seems like this is what is happening, which is like to basically have him die a slow death in Belmarsh. I don't think the U.S. government even actually wanted that case to come to the U.S. because it would be a complete freaking circus and people would lose their freaking minds, right? So I think what they basically was trying to do was just slowly let him die in Belmarsh. We want him to be freed. But this is Stella's remarks here after the ruling.
The courts recognize that Julian is exposed to a flagrant denial of his freedom of expression rights, that he is being discriminated against on the basis of his nationality, an Australian, and that he remains exposed to the death penalty.
Pause 1 second. I want to talk about his nationality. Another thing that was mentioned is, I guess because he's Australian, the First Amendment, they claim that doesn't apply to him. Isn't that wild? Because of his nationality.
And yet, what the courts have done have been to invite a political intervention from the United States to send a letter saying it's all okay. I find this astounding. 5 years into this case, the United States has managed to show the court that their case remains an attack on press freedom, an attack on Julian's life. What the courts haven't agreed to look at is the evidence that the United States has plotted to assassinate Julian, to kidnap him. Because if it acknowledges that, then of course he can't be sent to the United States. Julian is a political prisoner. He is a journalist, and he is being persecuted because he exposed the true cost of war in human lives. This case is a retribution. It is a signal to all of you that if you expose the interests that are driving war, they will come after you. They will put you in prison and they will try to kill you.
They have basically decided, and by they, I mean the US government has basically decided to make an example out of Julian Assange. You know, Barack Obama gave a pardon to Chelsea Manning, but when it comes to Julian Assange, you know, this is one of those. And by the way, Merrick Garland can pardon Julian Assange tomorrow. They're not willing to budge on this one. And I really do feel like they're trying to make an example out of him, not just in reference to revealing US war crimes, but free speech overall and freedom of press. Why do you guys think they're going after TikTok? Because they didn't like the information that was coming out about the history of the creation of Israel and about how the Palestinian people had been treated and what the IDF was doing to Palestinian people. They want to control the source of information and they want to control the narrative.
Julian is just a few days away from the 5th anniversary of his arrest and imprisonment in Belmarsh prison. He has been in Belmarsh for 5 years without conviction, and the charges against him are to punish him for publishing the truth, for publishing evidence of the war crimes committed by the country that is trying to extradite him. Now, the UK courts have invited the United States to issue assurances. The Biden administration should not issue assurances. They should drop this shameful case that should never have been brought. Julian should never have been imprisoned for a single day. This is a shame on every democracy. Julian is a political prisoner. He is a publisher, and he is being published for expressing his political opinion, for expressing freedom of the press in its purest form. Free Julian. I ask everyone to rally behind him and call for his freedom, call for the Biden administration to drop the case and support House Resolution 934 before the U.S. Congress to drop this case.
Yeah, man. I know some people have said to me they don't feel like this is their issue and they shouldn't be concerned. It's only a matter of time before they come after others as well, though. Glenn Greenwald actually broke this down pretty well. Thanks so much to Glenn for this. UK court hands Assange a partial victory in the Biden DOJ's attempt to extradite him. The U.S. must provide explicit assurances that Assange, 1, can raise a First Amendment defense, 2, will have the same rights as U.S. citizens, and 3, will never face the death penalty. The deadline is April 18th. Remember what I told you before about what they were trying to say about his nationality, that the First Amendment wouldn't apply to him because he's Australian. He's actually retweeting this from Richard Medhurst that says, breaking, Julian Assange has been granted limited leave to appeal by the High Court. I have just been given the ruling and will provide more information below. So that's the actual document there. Glenn goes on to say, in the meantime, Assange remains in Belmarsh, the high security UK prison where he has been held for 5 years. Every press freedom and civil liberties group in the West has urged Biden DOJ to drop this prosecution as a grave threat to press freedom. Okay, goes on to say, the goal is not to bring Assange to the United States. Biden White House doesn't want the sideshow of a trial. Daily protests, discovery into CIA, Assange on the stand, Biden as the first ever president to imprison a publisher. They want to kill Assange through conviction-free imprisonment. And that is what I believe as well. This is what they really want to do, right? The Obama DOJ tried to imprison Assange, but concluded they couldn't without destroying press freedoms. Mike Pompeo, Trump's worst mistake, vowed as CIA director in 2017 to destroy Assange and WL, and that, with the Biden DOJ, is who caused all of this. Now, why is that important? And I said, thank you for breaking that down. Because right now, you'll see people like Tucker Carlson. Pay attention to what he's doing here, right? This is partisan politics. Check this out. The fact that any of this is even in question is shocking. Biden is actually considering the death penalty for journalism. Yes, he is. Where are all the liberals at CNN, NBC News, and the Washington Post? Totally shameful. I agree. It is totally shameful. But Tucker Carlson is playing partisan politics by not calling out the Trump administration for arresting Julian in the first damn place. Both administrations should be called out. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party should be called out. But he is going to call out the Biden administration and not call out the administration that's responsible for him being in Belmarsh in the first damn place. So we cannot fall for the okie doke. In fact, I said that. Yes, it's shameful. It's also shameful you're not blaming Trump since he had Julian arrested. I forgot to put that here. And then Nick, my comrade from RBN, said, why didn't you ask Trump about this tough guy? Yeah, so Misty really nailed him here. Another reminder that Tucker was sitting directly across from Donald J. Trump, the man who had Assange arrested, who spied on him, and who developed plots to assassinate him. And he did not ask a single solitary question about any of it. So this is another example that just goes to show you how people will just play into the partisan politics, and they'll only call out the party that is not the party that they are a member of. At this point in time, both Biden and Trump are responsible for what is happening to Julian Assange. And you have to remember that Julian is the only one who was in prison. Julian didn't take the video. Julian published the content. The people who took the video, these people are not imprisoned. This is why I'm saying they're trying to make an example out of him, particularly out of him. And all of us have to stand up and fight back against this. They will come for you next. Julian, yes, it's him right now. It was Daniel Hale until he was released a couple weeks ago. It's been Assata Shakur. It's been Mumi Abdul Jamal. It's always someone else. All these different political prisoners. It's been Leonard Peltier. It's only a matter of time before they come for one of you, because it's something that you may publish or you may post on social media that they have a problem with. Everyone should stand up for a free press. Everyone should stand up for an uncensored free press. And everyone should care about what is happening to Julian Assange.